Hello. Are we live now? I hope so. Let's check everything. All right. Can anybody hear that? Okay. So, am I live? I hope so. So today, I will take a look at all of the clips that you guys and gals and everyone else sent me. We'll analyze them, take a look at what you're doing there, and we'll give you some tips on how you can improve or what the thing is that you are doing right there, right? So, wait, I might check. Doesn't look like I am live. Let's take a look on YouTube. Oh yeah, okay, I am live. There I am. Okay, perfect. All right, see, okay. So I'm not right. Ayo, hey, yeah, okay, now I'm definitely live. All right. So, I've got some nice emails from you, and let's take a look at everything there. So the first one is Bruno. Hello, Marcel. This is the fry scream that I've learned. It's quite similar to the Xenoir scream from Ne Oblivis Caris. Oh my god, totally butchered that, I think. But I'd like to achieve higher notes, or is it something genetic? I mean, some vocalists like Andy Sizek have a very high scream, or maybe it is another technique, I don't know. Sometimes also when I'm screaming, the sound breaks. I'm not quite sure why. I would like to know, what do you think about my scream? And also, how could I learn the Marcus Bridge from North Layne or currently La Plante from Spirit Box kind of scream? I'd be very pleased if you could answer these questions. Thank you so much for your support. Yeah, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for sending me that clip. Okay, so the first thing is, like to achieve higher notes. Is this something genetic? No, it's not something genetic. I mean, of course, you'll have an individual anatomy differences. So maybe some part is a little bigger, some part is a little smaller, and that will of course affect the tone and of course the general shape, right, of the vocal tract, of your mouth, of your nasal cavity. All these things influence how you sound, right? You hear this. One person sounds like this when they speak, another person sounds like this when they speak. And of course, this is also obvious in the singing, but whether or not you can do high screams, or generally can sing higher, that is not something genetic. Of course, someone that has like really, really low voice, so like a bass, for them it will be much harder to sing high. But your high scream, that really is dependent on the technique. So you are spot on with this assumption right now, right there. And with technique, it doesn't only refer to, well, the technique of, is he doing like a vocal fry? Is he doing like the fry scream with compression and breathiness? Are they doing a false chord scream? No, that's not it. But it's really the it's really what they do with their mouth and with the pharynx back there, and also of course with the tongue and with the nose. So this is what dictates how high a scream is. Second thing that dictates it is of course the general technique, right? False chord is gonna be a little bit more tricky to get that high, with a fry scream coming also from the vocal folds. These will be generally higher, and it will be more tricky to get these low. But let's just take a look at what you are doing there.
Therefore we love and lost into the flesh of the corruption. Is it too late? Will that be my lover? Will that be my lover? And a two-rap script crawl caressed a moment between black tolerance plus consciousness, a breath, regret, clarity, comfort. Is there salvation?
Awesome. Very good. Good job. What I really like is, of course, I took a look before that, but this is the first time everyone else is seeing it. What I really like is that your scream is very consistent. So it doesn't, I don't see any signs of fatigue. Of course, it's just 30 seconds, but you can hold it out for long. I think that's you trying to make it higher than in the end, right? And it's not getting that much higher. But you are already onto the, yeah, you're already there. You can already do the high, and you did it while you were enunciating there. But let's continue with the nice things. So it sounds pretty relaxed, right? I can't see
well done, my
a
lover. Well done,
little bit here at the
my lover.
neck.
I interrupt script crawl chorus a moment between.
See if that right there is really necessary. Of course, if you're gonna compress, it's gonna sound squeezed. And you're always gonna have a little bit of activation at the neck. But see if you can let go of that a little bit and still keep the scream. We always want to be only as tense and also only as loud as we truly have to be to make the sound happen, and then not any louder. So every time, it also applies to all the other techniques. Of course, some techniques, they don't work quite. But what I mean is that once you get to a technique, don't try to make that even louder and even louder and even louder, because the volume will sound more powerful to you in your room, because yeah, louder always sounds better. That really is a thing. But as soon as you sing into a microphone, and your screams in a recording are going to be compressed to this, to like almost zero dynamic range, the volume differences will be equaled out, and now the louder scream will just fatigue you faster or may even hurt you. Now, what can you do to make this higher? Let me first take a look whether I prepared my I prepared my phone here, so I can also take a look at the chat at the same time. Okay, right. Should we do this all the time? Hi, Facundo. Oh my God, so many people here. Hi, Matt. We should do this all the time. So nice that the videos help you. I love that. As man, can you scream like Chris motionless? I can do a similar scream. But let's take a look at this later. Let's first figure out, okay, what are you doing here? So, what you're doing here is you do the fry scream that mainly comes from your vocal folds. So I can hear very little. Let me get one more closeness, and you're not gonna hear this when I switch it to my interface. There's also compression going on. I think the tone, like seriously, the tone.
Of corruption is still and well done, my lover. Well done,
good. Honestly, tone is pretty good. I like that. You're doing a great job. What you're doing is you have some compression going on. I think there's also some false fold distortion, not a huge bit, but a little bit. But most of the sound is coming from your vocal folds. They really are going into that irregular type of closure where instead of a with a shine, it's kind of like this, and you can hear that. The way you can identify that is that as soon as you go into the screen, the pitch goes away completely. And it's more of a general pitch. I would do this type of scream differently. I would do it just for myself, not because that's objectively better, but I do it with the really high compression, yeah, and then with the breathiness, yeah. But you can hear that. As soon as you go into the scream, it has that characteristic creaky sound of the vocal fry, and also it lacks that very definable pitch, right? It's almost pure distortion. So this you're doing great. How can you get this high? Take a look at this.
And lost and turned the flesh of the corruption. love and lost and turned to flesh.
Where was that?
We love.
Yeah.
We love
heard
and
something?
lost and turned to flesh of corruption. Is it still laid well?
There it was.
Laid well.
Listen, I mean, of course I know it was really brief, but listen to how high that was. Lied. That was pretty high, so you already solve it. You can hear that when you go into this So late, 8, into this mouth shape, the scream will be much higher. When you do screams like these that are almost only noise or almost only distortion, they are pretty much only overtones, right? There is no real fundamental note that you can hear, barely. What you do with your mouth and also with your nasal cavity, and also with the space of the pharynx, so back here, inside there, inside here, inside here. What you do with this, you can picture this like an EQ, that depending on what shape you set up in here, the sound is gonna be high or it's gonna be low. So when I create a big space inside here, like a big resonance chamber, like when I lower my larynx, you can hear that sounds really dark. You can also hear that when I just exhale. In comparison to this, you can hear it's more neutral. Would equal a mid. It's much higher. Is much higher. Yeah. It didn't change anything about whether I did like a high pitch or a low pitch. There was no pitch. It was just white noise. So if you want to practice going high, and want to really isolate practicing this, you can do this just with the breath. So for that high, you want to go into an but not an You see that this is much too big. And you can also hear this in my natural voice. When I do an it gets a little higher, right? It gets a little higher. It's generally higher what you do with your mouth shape here. By the way, looking up like this is not going to help you sing higher. So you can save if generally you look up a little bit and that helps you scream, everything that feels fine, go for it. But the scream, it's like singing. It's also very typical with singing that you're gonna right, gonna look up higher, but that higher is not gonna help you. But instead, it's gonna put a lot more strain on your throat, right? You notice that when you talk. Oh, that's not very comfortable. So the reason why that didn't go up high is because look at all this space back here. No more. Yeah. That's kind of. The key is your tongue. Your tongue is too flat. Take a look at this. I go into not an but into an kind of like how to get this raising of the tongue in the back, which really makes the space much smaller that is back there, and thus makes the sound way higher. Hope you can see that. To get this is what you need for the high. Yeah. not changing anything about the bass pitch that I have with my scream. So if we disregard the technique there, the technique of what produces the sound, you can get much higher if you go for an So to get, if that gives you some trouble, try imitating a witch's laugh. Or try imitating a meow. Meow, meow. Or try imitating a sheep. Meh, meh, meh. It needs to be super annoying and bright and forward sounding. And from there, you need to scream. Now, the other question. Let me take a look at the chat, because last time I did a bad job with the chat. I wanna improve. Oh, hi Bruno. Awesome that you're watching. I hope that helped you. Yeah, I'd say the quality of your fry is good. It sounds a little bit da 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 because you are. You're pretty much always on the same kind of general pitch that you are there, and this I think is where you can improve. So where you go into the fry scream, or from what pitch of your singing voice you go into this vocal fry will dictate in general how high or how low the scream is. You can see that you go into the fry scream from a pretty medium note. I'm doing a different technique there because that one is easier for me, but you get the general idea. When I do it's gonna be at that pitch. When I do you can hear how that's much higher right away. Or I go lower. And that can also help you sing higher. So practice going in and out of the scream, and then see if you can also do it on a note that's just a semitone, higher or lower. And then switching up from which note you're going into the scream will also help you sing higher or scream higher or lower, but it will also make the screaming sound much more diverse, so to say, a little bit more interesting. This is where I think you can improve. The technique is already really consistent. You've done a great job there, but this is the actual performance is where I think you can improve even more. So what's the best way to build up a fry scream? Every time I try it hurts my throat. Tried all sorts of breathing, but nothing will work. Right, you definitely need to breathe to do the fry scream. Could you, Smurfs, just specify what kind of sound you are going for? So maybe is it like a Chester Bennington kind of fry scream? Is it something kind of like a Sam Carter Architects kind of thing, or a Ollie Sykes kind of thing? Or is this more like a Meshuggah thing, or a Devin Townsend thing? Because there are different fry screams, and in my opinion, depending on which fry scream you're after, which sound exactly you're after, you should approach it in different ways. Let's take a look at the other part of the question there. North Lane. Let me have a listen. How would I approach this? Wait, let's play. Gotta listen to that with headphones. That's awesome. Okay. So you can hear that it's definitely a mix, right? It's definitely a mix of, we have false fault distortion in there. You can hear that when it goes kind of halfway into the scream. So let's see this kind of from here. Proofs are better. Proofs are better. Yeah. Proofs are better. Proofs. That is false fault distortion, and then you can hear a little bit of that creakiness. You can hear a little bit of that creakiness when also his vocal folds go into the fry motion, so to say. So it's pretty low for me to go into the screen from there. Shy, I'd say first learn how to just use your false folds and sing with them. Learn how to compress. Yeah. These are the false folds. And then try, without going louder, to go higher in pitch. Open your mouth up even more. And there will come a point where it starts to feel really weird and where your voice will kind of want to flip away. It's very similar, almost the same, actually, as the technique you already do. It's just in general from a higher pitch and from a little louder phonation. So not from kind of from there, but not from kind of from there. So yeah. Right there, you can hear what happens to me. Normally, if I were to properly sing, it'd go I need to go way louder to actually reach this note with a chest voice, or with, if you talk CVT, with the mode overdrive. Oh! But when I do the scream, oh! Right there, that would be properly projected with the amount of support that you need for this note. But if you actually go quieter than this and don't allow your voice to go back into your head voice in that in-between area, this is where this type of scream is. Okay, let's take a look at the next person. Okay, this is from Mirko. Oh, wait, I do have a glass right here. Fry scream. Inspiration, Connor Hallisey from Our Hollow Home. I have to take a listen from that. I've been trying to imitate Connor Hallisey from Our Hollow Home. In the last stream, I showed you their song Overcast. This is me giving the first few seconds of the song a shot. I'm pretty confident about the growly stuff, but seem to be insecure about regarding higher screaming. I think I'm slipping out of proper technique at the higher stuff at 012. Hope you can help me. Okay, let's take a listen.
Black clouds ready to rise up my head to off a storm. Relentlessly cascading through, but a judgment on my thoughts. Roll on to free my mind from clear skies ahead. Every golden of a lottery, that by now I should be done. That by now I should be done. That by now I should be done. That by now I should be done.
So first of all, lows. Awesome. Great job. Enjoy that.
Black clouds ready to rise up my head to off a storm. Relentlessly cascading through, but a judgment on my thoughts. Roll on.
Don't tell me about my thoughts.
To free my mind from clear skies ahead. Every golden of a lottery.
I'm honestly not sure whether that is really a fry scream or whether that is actually a false chord.
Black clouds.
It sounds a little bit more like a false chord, to be honest. But you know how it is. Sometimes it's really hard to tell unless you can hear, unless you can see how the person is breathing, and unless you're really in the room with them.
Ready to rise up my head to off a storm.
But they're
Relentlessly cascading through, but a judgment on my thoughts.
But what throws me off is how loud your talking is here. Or how loud the cleans are.
My thoughts.
My thoughts. It's a little bit too loud, and that is, I think, what's the problem with the highs there.
long to free my mind from gross skies are heard. Every golden civil lottery that by now I should be dead. I know I should be dead.
Done.
Be dead.
You can hear a little bit of strain in that, yes, and you're absolutely spot on with that. Here, spot on. So very good. You have a very good ear for this stuff, and the lows sound amazing. So let's see what's the problem with the higher ones. In the highs, you can definitely hear that is fry.
And by now I should be dead.
John, by the world, I should. Let me take a listen to the original. All right, Overcast. Not this one here. You're so close, right? You're so close with how the original singer sounds. You can be really proud of yourself. It's two things. I think that you are a little bit too loud for this technique, to work. And that has to do with that really depends. So it depends on two things. I'm still not completely sure. Is that a fry or is that actually a false chord? Because it sounds so massive. So either way, you're really good with what you are doing there. And I'd like to see this. I'd like to see how you go into the scream there. Is this more of a so Kagura? Is this? Right? Is that kind of like this, or is this happening? Right? And you see how it does sound different, but my advice to you is different depending on what technique you do. So if this is the fry scream with breathiness, then, and this really depends on what you are doing, how you go into this. Then I could tell. But regardless, the math shape is not really there. It's done. Done. Right, that's it. Done. And we have the same thing with Bruno. Is you need to go into John, John, to get this high. John. This, by the way, this narrowing back there. This is called twang. And in your case, you need more twang. Regardless of what technique you do, you need a little bit more twang. John! Yeah, that was just a twang. And it's not just me going, but I can still do done. 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 And this is the last piece I think that you're missing to get this really high. You can just look up some twang tutorials, or again go with the what's that? Oh, forget the I just said it. The witch and the sheep. The witch, like a real nasty laugh. To really become conscious of what is the movement you do, what is the coordination to go into the twang, to use more twang. Practice this, then either go into the scream from there, or go into the scream and then go into this. The second thing is, I think you are a little bit too loud.
And by now I should be done. I know I should be done.
Just a tiny bit.
And by now I should be done. And by now I should be done.
Yeah, I think you're a tiny bit too loud. C, I should be done. Yeah, it's kind of like, sorry. Da, kind of around there. That is the pitch that you have in your voice when you go into the scream. Is practice going into the scream from this pitch. This will teach you how loud you need to be and what the specific coordination is to go into the scream. Also works when you do false chord. Or it will be a little bit too high for false chord, at least for me. That could really help you show you how you need to sing this note. So this, going back and forth between the note and the scream, and incorporating a little bit more twang. Okay, let's take a look at. I've seen we're already over 20 people. Really appreciate so many people watching. I love it. Bruno, do I have to compress more? You can, but it's not a must. It will change. It will make it a little bit more focused, but you don't have to. I think you already have a good tone. Depends on what exact sound you are going for. Let's see, Smurfs commented, going for something like Daniel Tompkins of Tesseract, or Spencer Sotelo from Periphery. So, your original question, how do you build up to this? And I got, so for Spencer Sotelo kind of scream, you can do this in different ways. You often see this advised, and it also depends on how much singing experience you have. There's kind of a shorter route, and there's a longer route to go into the scream. And the shorter route would be to go kind of with the vocal break method. You may be familiar. You have seen that already on YouTube probably. And that is going up high and then going real fast between. It's really hard for me to do it that way because I've been singing for so long that I kind of don't have the vocal break anymore. Or I do have it, but I don't really remember how I can do it. I'm so used to go oh, like this if I want to say chesty, or to go see, there it was and I'm not a fan of the vocal break method, but what you can do is you can try singing a note in chest voice, not super loud, not like this, but more not that'd be too quiet. That way when you go higher you just end up in your falsetto. But and there it happens. If I don't adjust, if I don't become louder, or I don't change the vowel, right? Because if you go up higher in your mixed voice, you have to close the vowels. You have to do these kind of, or e, u. You have to use closed vowels. Oh yeah. Ooh. If I open up and I go with a mixed voice, what happened? The reason why that happens is because this vocal fry maneuver, which is also how you can go to that Spencer Sotelo scream, that happens when there is a mismatch. I think my friend Tony Linke, great guy, check him out. He worded it really well. When there is a mismatch between subglottal pressure, and maybe that's not the exact quote, but that was what was behind it, and the resistance that you give to this subglottal pressure. So what that means is subglottal pressure is the volume, or the energy, or the ear pressure that you give. This is the subglottal below the vocal folds, ear pressure. And you adjust this without really thinking about it when you go from loud to quiet. Whoa! High subglottal pressure to low to high again. And when you sing higher, the reason why these methods work with singing high and then letting the voice break is because when you sing higher, the different coordinations that your vocal folds can do, they kind of are further apart from each other. So you have to really abide the rules to what sound or coordination you're going for. And if you either don't know the rules because you're a singing novice, or you purposefully go against the rules, then your vocal folds will not be able to perform the coordination that you want from them, and then they will close in a different way. Then they will close in kind of this vocal fryer, in this creaking way. Or what can also happen is that especially when the subglottal pressure becomes more, so you go louder, but you don't allow you stay with the exact same vowel. So maybe something like a is some false fold distortion comes in because for this loud coordination to work, hey, whoa, like this, you need these vowels, because with these kind of vowels, your throat immediately sets up this narrowing inside here. So that is kind of the resistance to the high pressure. And you can hear this when I go higher, that I have to go into wider and wider, and more twang, which is also kind of a resistance because it narrows back here. Wider mouth means small space in here. That's also why high scream does, and not small mouth, big space, wide mouth, small space back here. You can also feel that. Now, when I have high subglottal pressure, so I go into a chesty and loud and coordination, I need this. And most novice singers don't do that. They don't know about this. So what they do is they just go kind of for an and then they just go higher, until there's a point where there's almost no overlap anymore between the different coordinations your voice can do. So let me show you what this means. Say I have this A4. And I can sing it chesty like this. Hey! There I need exactly this vowel, or otherwise it doesn't work. I went into the scream. Because I switch up the vowel, and that makes this coordination not work anymore. But of course, as with all of these things, it's not easy to just replicate this. But that is what I did, right? I didn't make my vocal folds magically go into the vocal fry, but I purposefully created a mismatch between the subglottal pressure and the resistance up here. So that is why the vocal break method works, because when you're high, right? When you're so into this coordination, hey! Then I have kind of like a mixed voice. And then you can also do it with lots of twang. Hey! Kind of, some would call this a thinned out chest voice. And you have a falsetto. Now, it's really, really hard to go fluently from one coordination to the next. It will be more like a break. Because when I sing this high note, these coordinations that my voice can do, they are further apart than they are when I sing low, where they're all kind of intermingled and they have huge overlaps. So I can go from one fluently to the next, and that is why singing low is easy. Because you have so much wiggle room for mistakes. You can go loud, quiet, you can go this vowel, that vowel, doesn't really matter, right? You can do everything. You can make everything work. But as you sing higher and higher, your wiggle room becomes smaller and smaller because these overlap points of your voice, they become smaller and smaller, and eventually they're gone. I can almost not blend this. You can hear how I strain and how this also sounds really uncomfortable. And now it's stable again because it went fully into the different coordination. And that in-between area, this is where your vocal folds will perform, or are likely to perform, this distortion noise. So this is the vocal break. This is the vocal break method. And there are long tutorials about this on YouTube. But what I would suggest is that again, question was, how do you go for this periphery style screaming? Is learn the individual steps first. Because if you don't luckily fall into the scream with the vocal break method, then try building up to the scream. And that is what I suggest in the, you can also take like the same approach as with how to sing scream like Sam Carter. That is, first, learn how to use your false folds. Learn how to compress your larynx, so to pull the false folds over the vocal folds. In higher, it would look like this. Little false fold. Almost sounds like the scream. And now you go higher and higher without adjusting. Maybe a vowel like ah, like a really huge ah works well. Yeah. There we already are. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Layne Staley's vocals. Oh yeah. That was what was the song? What was the song called? Oh yeah, that's Christ. Right, that one. What was the source? I need to research it. I forgot it. Yeah. Alice in Chains. Yeah. Man in a Box, right? That's, see. Alice in Chains. Man in the Box. Yeah, I think that was the one. So, I think the live video is even better. That is again the same scream. You all want to learn this kind of scream. It is false fold distortion. But you hear that this is not already it, right? This would be just singing with overdrive or high chest voice. And then false fold distortion. But what you need is also to let your voice, and you need two things. You need a little bit more compression to make the false fold distortion sound less kind of like this, and more a little bit more wet. That also helps you sing this high note, right? Because if you were to sing this with overdrive, it would be hugely exhausting. So if you sing this with more compression, it allows you, compression is a little cheat code. It allows you to sing higher with less subglottal pressure. Right, that would be just compression. Jesus Christ. Then you need that was the compression. You need the compression. And then the second thing you need is to go, and that is, again, the counter to the thing with this vocal fry stuff, is to go quieter. To reduce the subglottal pressure so that this is not really possible anymore, but you're also not dropping into into this. But you're really going into an in-between of these two. And in his case, it was just a tiny bit of this. And let me show you, right, what a drastic difference that does to the tone. It makes it sound a little bit more like white noise-ish and less less rumbly and more raspy in a way. So, no vocal fry. Yeah! Jesus Christ. That is how you can do this. So, let's take another look at the chat. Yeah, do you use twang also for false chord screams? I wouldn't use it in lows, but it's almost required for the highs. Same thing applies. Oh, hi Alex. Some days I wake up able to do false chords immediately, and some days, today, it breaks a lot. It's really annoying. Are there any warm-ups I can do to help? So in general, for you not, because I know you, but in general, I recommend to go into a false chord scream from Kargira. So learning Kargira, because that's a really good way to activate either your false folds and or your retinoid cartilages, depending on how you do it. And that is also a really good warm-up. Also tutorials on this, also a tutorial on my website. And then slowly incorporating a little bit of a this is just my vocal folds. This is the vocal folds part of the false chord. Quietly. And then slowly building the false chord. 2 to 3 minutes of Kargira. Then a little bit of that kind of ape voice or caveman voice. And then incorporating that carefully into the Kargira. And then you can hear the Kargira kind of break up and want to go into that false chord. That is how I'd always not always, but how in general I'd recommend to practice a false chord, learn the false chord, and then also go into the false chord. Now that you have good days and then sometimes you have a really bad day, that is normal. Singers are rarely at 100%. I'm not at 100% either. Like you all know this, like this or what's that called, name like that name every meme, right? So that so you're a screaming teacher. Do every technique. All right, that's you guys. But I also have bad days sometimes, and if your voice really feels off, then go at it again at another day. If you must perform and it's just not coming together, I'd recommend for a warm-up to go through the stuff that your technique kind of consists of. So it can never harm to practice the compression. Practice going into the false fold distortion. Or or going into your retinoid cartilage buzzing. So that would be the Kargira. The compression and false fold distortion is more important for the fry screams, and the Kargira is more important for the false chord screams. And most of the times when it's not coming together and it just want to crack, I'd say you're likely due to frustration, and this is to you, Alex, you're likely due to frustration, tensing up way too much and also going way louder or way more forcefully than you really need to be. Especially when something is not working out as intended, then we want to, why is it not working? Damn it. Now I'm just going to, trying to force the thing. And with most screams, this is the opposite of how you're able to do the scream, like, right? And then just going loud, you're just going to hurt you there. So take 5 to 10 minutes. Relax. Get some headspace. Or how do you say that like that? Yeah, just relax a little bit. And then also, or try the low sigh thing. if you can find that way into your false chord. And if it's really just a super bad day, then that's the case. That's how it is. That's normal. Everyone has that. Right. A little less loud. It works better. Also, 27 seems to help. Awesome. That anonym. I guess you're German. Nice. Awesome. That helps you. So for ice cream, and I got it, but it was years ago and it was before my puberty. I didn't practice after that, so I think that's why I lost my power, if that's a correct term. Whatever. Now I'm practicing false chord. Do you practice in different way of false chord? In general, so do you need to practice differently for false chord screams than for fry screams? And I'd say the same fundamentals apply, the same fundamentals of safely or practicing screaming as safely as possible is to always evaluate how much volume and really power and force you need to do the scream. And also with false chord screams, these are louder than fry screams, but does it need to be like across 5 blocks, right? Does it need to be as loud as you're doing it right now, or could you do it a little quieter and thus make it feel more comfortable? Always evaluating how loud you really need to be. That's the one thing. The second thing is closely monitoring how your voice is. I have a voice check video on my channel. How to practice screaming and distortion techniques healthily. Or safely. Safely was the title. Take a look at this. This should apply to both of your scream. That's true to whatever kind of scream you do. Also to when you do clean vocals. Same thing. And then when you practice false chords, I cannot recommend enough to learn how the throat sing. That really helps. And it's also, as I already said, it's a great warm-up. Okay, let's take a look at the next recording by some guy trying to fry scream. The method I use to get the sound here is to first put your throat in a position like you're about to vocal fry, but don't actually do it. Then move your voice back so that you sound somewhat like Patrick from SpongeBob. Hey, SpongeBob. Muffle your voice a bit. I think that's kind of what you mean. Then crunch up your nose so that it sounds more nasal. Then while you're doing all these, just blow air. And this guy, I'm going to get to a false scream. I'm going to tell you right away. Yeah. Then while doing all these, just blow air and let things make noise passively. It sounds more like a false scream from this explanation right here. It's the only method I've found that gets me a fry scream type of sound that isn't painful while I'm doing it, right? This is hugely important. Not every method is going to work for everyone, or at least not every method works well without instruction. This, and it's very important to closely evaluate, okay, if I do it like this, I'm just going to hurt myself. Always evaluating, when I do this step, do I sound exactly like the person that is telling me to do this step, or do I sound different? And if you sound different, then you are in 99% of the cases just doing it wrong. You don't sound different, or your scream doesn't sound different because you're a different person. Like how two voices sound different, but your scream sounds different because you're doing something else. This does not hurt at all while I'm doing it. Great. Though I do feel rumbling. Yeah, that's normal. But it does start to burn a while afterwards. Usually during the next day. Thought this was a coincidence at first until I found it was consistent. Obviously, I'm doing something wrong. So that burning sensation the next day, that is definitely curious. It's not that it definitely has something to do with this. What I am thinking about with this burning sensation is I'm always asking myself, what does it do to your voice? Is your voice then still normal, or is your voice hoarse? Does it crack sometimes? Right? So how is the quality of your voice? Does your voice sound different? Or is it just the feeling that you have? Because when it's more of a burning feeling, and then the day afterwards, it could also be that just for some reason you're getting acid reflux when you scream, or after you scream. Just after the day, you get some acid reflux problems, and that can burn the acid of your stomach comes back, drips into your larynx, and burns your vocal folds. And so you might wanna if this is persistent, or if you like, I never know, right? How the medical situation is in where you are living. But if you have the opportunity, when you have this burning sensation again, go see an ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor, and have them take a look at your vocal folds. But I understand that not everyone has the privilege to just do that. So we also, right, that's a responsible thing to say, but yeah, that's just how it is sometimes. Let's take a look at your scream, all right?
I know what my fries scream sounds like.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm doing wrong.
That's definitely a fry scream, 100%. It's not a false chord. But with that instruction, I go into a false chord.
Yeah.
Well, look what's getting recommended to me. This seems to be a hot thing.
I know what my fries scream sounds like. I have no idea what I'm doing wrong. Then another one I'm doing that. I'm running out of things to say. 23 seconds.
So this technique that you do there is really consistent. That is lovely. You do a vocal fry. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know. And I think where you, and this is more of a hard to tackle problem, because because not doing something is way harder than doing something on top. And I don't think that the problem is that you are lacking something and you need to do more. But I think that when you do in the first of all, I think you're, for the coordination that you're doing, kind of that volume, you are, see, my voice is a little bit fatigued. That volume is a little bit too loud. And when you go into the scream, I'd like you to try what happens if I do it a little quieter. Then closely observe. Does it still burn the day afterwards? Second thing you can try is go into the sound and see how far can you relax everything. What do you truly have to do the scream? Because I think you might be, and that's, I'm not seeing you, but you might be, I'm not thinking what I'm doing wrong. Just way too tight in here. Also happens with people learning compression, that they go, huh, not just, huh, but they go, huh, and just squeeze as hard as they can, which is not the point, right? Point is just to go, huh, and have that closure there. Point is also not to, huh, and then press as hard as I can against this, huh, until my face turns red. No. So this will be something where I'd like to see you. Where I'd like to see you, also like to see how you go into this technique. And then that is a subjective thing, right? I'm not the one to decide what is a scream, what is not a scream, what is a good scream, what is a bad scream, because this is really subjective. I'm not a fan of this technique. I'm also not a fan of false screams, but that's just my taste in music. I'm not a fan of this fry scream sound. So what I'd like you to try is see if you can, if it's for an if you're after an atonal scream, maybe take a look at some false chord, or maybe take a look at learning the compression fry scream, and then build from ground up from there if the relaxing thing is not helping you. Because you naming it crappy fry scream tells me that you're not happy yet with how this fry scream sounds. So you are not after this sound. So you're after something else. And then try to tackle this something else from a different angle. That is the feedback I give you there. So see how loud do you need to be to create the sound. Can you relax a little bit more? Are you tensing anything? And then thirdly, is this even the right approach to go for the scream that you're looking for to go to? I don't know what scream you're for, but yeah. So seeing if you can tackle this from a different angle. And then also the thing is that most people, they're either good or naturally kind of good, or they kind of just find it at fry screams or false skirt screams. The compressed fry screams, most of the time people have to really learn how to make the sound happen. But most people, they either go into that vocal fry thing or into the false skirt thing. And then most of the time they get really good at this or this, but then they want the other one. Because the grass on the other side is always greener, right? So if you don't want to learn with a coach, and you want to learn yourself with you, and you can, if you cannot learn with a coach, see if maybe the technique that you may already be able to do, if you can perfect that, before you try learning a technique that is naturally kind of hard for you to learn. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Hi, I've been trying to learn fry screams for over a year now, and although I've made some progress, I still need a lot to learn, don't we all? In this video, I tried to do the high fry, which I basically either take a falsetto note, from there break it into a fry, or just do a siren thing until I reach the vocal break. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. However, the main problem I face with this one is that I can't consistently do this type of scream. It just doesn't happen sometimes, or at other times I just won't come back into the falsetto note when I try to, it wants to come back when I try to sustain the scream for long or pronounce words. My main goal is to learn the really high screams that Chester Bennington used to do in some of his songs, especially some of the older Hybrid Theory live performances. Those screams, which sounds a little thin and almost like more pitchless screams, not like screamy screams. My other problem is that I can sing a distortion grid both in high notes and low notes. Great, but the way Chester Bennington and some other singers could almost seamlessly transition between those really gritty high notes, and the screams can still not be done by me. Last year I found your videos really helpful. Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, let's take a look at the video. Sounds like a little stressful on your vocal folds. You can hear this kind of stutter. What is that howling thing there? Can you hear it? Guys, can you hear this too? There's this howling thing at the same time when you do the scream. Kind of that frequency. It doesn't sound like it's coming from your voice. Did he say something about that is uncomfortable for him? Because that sounds a little bit, sounds like you incorporate also a little bit of a glottal stop. Harry Potter, right? British. Can you pass me the ball? Can you pass me the ball? Right, that's a glottal stop. Where your vocal folds just close. It's not the compression stop, but it's vocal folds close. It sounds to me like you're also doing a glottal stop and then you press some air through. Harry Potter. right? Kind of like this, and this can kill your voice really fast. I like how you went into the scream here. Yeah. By removing some of the volume and incorporating a little bit of compression. Yeah. Like this, but right here. No, not that. In the low. You can hear this kind of wind howling sound. Sounds to me like you have a little bit of too much tension at the vocal folds there. So it's more of a, instead of, my vocal folds are quite relaxed and just go like this. It's more of a, I do a glottal stop. So I go, my vocal folds are closed, and then I press air through them, which can sound very similar. But this is my question to you. Does this feel quite uncomfortable? Does your voice get dry really fast when you do this? Wait, I think I'm getting really dark here. Yeah, that's better. So, not too happy about this approach. Don't think that you'll do it consciously, but it might be coming from you incorporating compression, which is not the proper compression. Look at this one, but it's more of a and then squeezing the air through, because the screams are kind of multi-tonal, and that points me towards that the vocal folds are pressed together, are kept closed, and then air is blowing through them. So I'd really like to hear, maybe next time, is this, the distortion and the grit. Because in my opinion, that this is the way better approach to go for these atonal kind of screams. And in terms of atonalness, I'd really recommend you to not go for this for the vocal fry thing, because there you will always have some tonal things, but to go for that really compressed scream. Use the distortion that you have. By the way, that it's only a thin layer of grit. That has to do with the fact that if it's false fold distortion, right? If it's a little bit of vocal fry, then that's not true, what I'm going to say. But if you're really doing false fold distortion properly, then if you have only very little compression, it will almost sound just like a set of notes, second set of notes. Kind of like this. You need to sing quieter, which the compression allows you to do, and then the compression also false folds pull together over the vocal folds and start to move. This also increases the distortion. Hey! This way you get to more distortion. And that is pretty much singing with compression. That is what Chester did almost all the time. That's also why the stuff, why when you sing with compression, it allows you to sing higher and more easily. And that is what makes you not kill yourself when you sing these songs. If I were to sing this with no compression, I've become so numb, I can feel you there. Become so tight, so much more. You can hear this is kind of too open in a way. Also, it's not distorted, but it's a little bit too open in a way. And then the second thing is that singing like this is exhausting. If I had a little bit of compression, I've become so numb, I can feel you there. Become so tied. The compression makes it much easier there. So I'd like to hear your false fold distortion. You can send me another one. I'm going to do the same thing in 2 weeks again. And then learn the compression. See if you can build a denser distortion with this on kind of medium note, kind of around C4, D4 for your voice type. And then learn the breathiness. This will make your scream atonal. Yeah! That is a really good way how you can get to really atonal screams. Okay, let's take a look at the chat. Scream directly into the mic. Yeah, it could also be that it's like a weird thing coming from the mic, but it's throwing me a little bit off here. Was today 2 hours ago. Now it's too late, unfortunately, because you can send it to me, and I'm gonna put you into the next video. I'm gonna put you in the next live stream then. What is the safest screaming technique? And probably the easiest one to learn. I'd say the easiest one to learn is most likely a false chord, but that's probably the unsafest of them all, because due to the high amounts of air pressure and the vocal folds being partially open and fluttering in the wind, this voice that is in the false chord, that dries out your vocal folds much faster than the other screams. So in terms of longevity, and also maybe if you want to sing like 1.5 hour long sets, or if you want to scream and sing in live shows, it's better to do fry screams than false chord screams. And when doing fry screams, I would even argue it's better to do, but that's just my lived experience, okay? It may also be a little bit better, not for longevity's sake, but for clean vocal sake, to do the compression fry scream with breathiness and not with vocal fry. Because when you want to sing clean, you need to properly support your voice. When you sing with vocal fry, you're doing the opposite. You sing in a coordination and then you give too little support to what the coordination needs. And when you continue singing and that is also what just happened with me singing numb here, is that some vocal fry creeps in. Because you kind of get used to using less support, because of course it's a little bit easier in a way. You get used to using less support, and so the vocal fry kind of wants to creep in doing your clean singing then. So if you want to do clean singing a lot, then I'd recommend you, for distortion, use some false fold distortion, and then if you want to have it sound more atonal, compress it, use a little bit of breathiness. That will not want to creep in, because it's like an active thing you have to put on top at the same time, instead of more of a relaxing thing where you just go quieter and screw up the vowel to make your voice go into the vocal fry. So that would be the safest technique to learn, but no, not safest technique to learn. It would be almost the hardest technique to learn in my experience, because it's really sounds you have to learn how to create. Whereas a false chord, you kind of just, most people just kind of stumble upon it when they and it's maybe just like a natural, when humans yell, they go into a false chord scream. You can sometimes hear this with people where when they literally scream, they do a false chord. So this one is the easiest to learn, but also the one that will fatigue you the fastest. And I say the one that fatigues you the slowest is the compression fry scream. But also that's the one that's the hardest to learn. Okay, let's take a look at the last one. It's gonna be the last one, and then I'm gonna do another live stream in 2 weeks, but then on a Sunday. But I'm gonna announce it probably on a Sunday, maybe on a Saturday. I'm gonna announce it again, and you can already record me videos and send them to my email. Hi, here's my video for the feedback stream this afternoon. I'm trying to work on false chords, ideally looking to get a deathcore growl going. I don't know what technique this is really. I tried the Kargira once you recommended, but I think this is more the heavy sigh way. And Kargira usually ends up in fry, which is easier for me. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Let's take a look. That's a real one. So first of all, you all notice that this sounds kind of unusual in a way, right? It sounds so almost unhuman. Oh, come on, it reminds me of an orc. What you're doing there is you can group this into false chord screams, but it's not a normal false chord scream. You are doing an epiglottis scream. This is very rare. You rarely see this. You see it like in some like super obscure grindcore, maybe not grindcore, but like super obscure noise stuff. This thing that is rattling here also what gives you this more dry, like really dry, more rattly and breathy sound. That is your epiglottis. This one you use for the jazz growl. What a wonderful world. I'm not used to do this at all. And for me it always feels really dry, feels really a little bit rough. And you can also see this, how wait. But gotta say, by the way, that this is not a bad thing, right? That you're using your epiglottis there. Right? This is not my false folds. Or my cartilage. This is my epiglottis rattling. And I can tell you that I really love how this sounds. It's awesome. It's really cool, but it's not a false chord. Or it's not the deathcore-ish false chord. If you want exactly that deathcore-ish, maybe thy art is a murder sound, you need to learn the traditional false chord that comes from a vocal fold grunt. Try a super dumb voice. And then blow a little more air on it. Maybe into the nose. Don't be shy to be quiet, otherwise it likely won't work. Or alternatively, baby. Then take this low. There we are. So first step. You can already try just going a little carefully, step by step. Going a little louder, a little louder, a little louder on this. And then maybe you will also almost automatically activate a little false fold or activate the cartilages. And then you're there, or almost there. Then you have the basic false chord technique. Or now try learning Kagura. There you go into. You said if you do Kagura, you go into a fry scream. So maybe try Kagura, and then incorporate that voice at the same time. There you have your false chord. For that kind of thy art-ish, you want these kind of mouth shapes. So what is a good song? You can hear it like this, right? And a little bit of voice. Like this. But with this sound, you already have a monstrous and amazing sound there. But it's a different thing. And you have to decide for you, hey, is this the sound I want to, like, do I like the sound? I like the sound. But you have to decide. I can tell you 100%, you're not going to do just one adjustment and then you do sound like thy art. But because it's a very different technique. So, right, that was all of the feedbacks. That was a lot of fun doing this. I had a lot of fun. And she teacher, this will give this sound on ordinary ligaments. This is wrong and ends up hurting. What he does is not safe. All of these, you have to be really cautious. And it's right. You can hurt yourself if you go too loud. If you use too much pressure, so too much squeezing into your face. If you have tension at the vocal folds, so you do a glottal stop instead of doing what you're trying to do. So the ish, that one, instead of doing the compression stop. There are many ways where the most important thing is that you always closely monitor. Closely monitor, how does this feel, what I'm doing? Does this feel good? Does this feel bad? What does it do to my voice? Do a voice check afterwards. And with every sound that you make, always take a look at, do I need to be this loud? Do I need to push this hard? Do I need to tense here or there or whatever? How much do I really have to do to make the sound happen? We're going to see each other again in 2 weeks. And I'm looking forward to hear some more recordings from you.